Welcome back to Hamburg Mobile Summit Live. We're here waiting for you guys in the studio and our next speaker. Let's welcome Marvin, Head of Business Development at Bytro Labs. Marvin, hello.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Good to see you in the studio. Hope you've been well. Where are you based?
In Hamburg, actually. In Hamburg, so it's a home game for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you feel very much homey at the moment.
Definitely. Yeah.
It is a wonderful city, and I really want to go there once everything is possible.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. In the meantime, it's good to have such opportunities to meet online too. Thank you very much for joining us today in the studio. We're very excited to listen to your talk. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then I welcome everyone once again. Hi, guys. Welcome to my presentation regarding the costs and benefits of turning in-app purchase-driven games into monetization hybrids. First, I want to tell you a bit about myself, the company I'm working for, and then we just jump right into it. So let's go. Who am I? I'm Marvin. I'm working in the gaming industry since slightly over 7 years now. I'm 5 years at Bytro Labs. Beforehand, I was 2 years at Good Game Studios. You might know them as well. And I'm heading the business development department here at Bytro. So who is Bytro? Bytro was founded in 2009, so around about 12 years ago now, and started off as a browser game developer. And one of the first games we developed and published on our in-house developed engine was Supremacy 1914. A few years later, we joined forces with Stillfront. I think Anya from Imperia just had her talk, which is a sister company of ours by now. And 2 years later, actually, we went public in 2015 with Stillfront together. And in the same year, we published our, to date, most successful game, Call of War. Then again, 2 years later, we co-developed a game with another sister company, Dorado Games, and licensed our engine for the first time for a different company. And the game is called Conflict of Nations and is currently topping some of the mobile ranking charts, which is quite nice. And currently we are working on a new title, which is called Iron Order, and we hope that it will make its release this year. A little bit more about the games, because it's also important for the presentation afterwards. So you know what we did, what kind of games we have, so you can at least relate. So the big three images are the three major games I just mentioned. On the bottom right, you see products we worked on in the past. Some are still live, some have been shut down. And Supremacy in the bottom left, Call of War in the top left, Conflict of Nations in the top right. They are basically, if you know, strategy board games, a bit similar. So a player gets a country, you build up the economy, you build up your army, you connect and forge alliance with other players, and you start conquering. The clue here that this all is map-based, so a map runs a certain amount of time. But a little bit more to this unique game mechanic and game behavior on the next slide. And here I want to say a bit about the genre the games belong to and what makes them unique. So we call the subgenre of strategy games where these games belong to long-term strategy games. Long-term because they run in real time, meaning screenshot on the right side from a few years back shows a calendar marked with Supremacy for several of weeks. That is because games run several of weeks or even months. They really run in real time. That means if you recruit a unit, if you move a unit, for example, from Hamburg to Berlin, they will walk for several hours until they come to their destination. And recruiting, as you see in the lower screenshot, might take a day or 2 days even for one unit. Also same for constructing buildings. So it's a very cognitive, challenging genre and takes a lot of patience and planning. And what we did now in the past 4 years, we went cross-platform. So as I mentioned, we started off as a browser game developer, then we moved to Steam with certain products, and now to mobile a few years ago. And what we wanted, or why did we move to mobile first of all, is, of course, if games take several weeks, you want the players to have it as convenient as possible and not always to run to a PC to play. So we said, okay, let's give them a mobile version, which is compatible. same game content, same game state, so they can always be on top of their army. And the result was at the end that we got a lot of volume, because on mobile, there's nowadays obviously more volume than on browser. So a lot of players came in and a lot of marketing opportunities showed up. But as we were only monetizing a small percentage of it and only enabled a small percentage through the in-app purchases to get premium currency, we thought about, okay, how can we, first of all, give everyone access to premium currency to enjoy the full game? And secondly, how to make use of all this traffic coming in from tier 2 and tier 3 countries. And that's now where we come to the clue. So we turned, or we started with a test. End of last year, we kicked it off in November. And we are still basically working on it, but the test and the rollout has happened. We said, okay, let's take Call of War and add ads to it, rewarded ads in this case. I will explain in the next slide why, and try to monetize it in different ways, also to diversify the risk now, right? Just relying on one monetization mechanic might be from time to time risky, but also just enable growth in certain countries. So how did the setup look like? How did the results look like? I will show you now. So first of all, the test, how it looked like. So we looked at iOS and Android. We decided ourselves we wanted to go with user-initiated ads. So we just came to a conclusion: rewarded ads, rewarded videos, basically, are the only ones we want to use here. We didn't want to disrupt the user experience, the user flow. So we just said the user should decide, now I want to see an ad, and now I want to get my rewards. We did it quite bold. An entry icon on the map screen, as you see on the right side. This is a screenshot from the app. And if you click it, this gold free button with a red 5 on it on the right side, you would directly come to the Games tab or Shop tab and see the options to watch 5 rewarded videos per day. We just did a cap of 5 because we just wanted to get a feeling to it, and we kept it on device ID first of all. And then we did 3 test groups, or 1 default group, 2 test groups, and did an ABC test. The default group was just still only relying on in-app purchases, which is basically buying premium currency and subscribing to a premium account. And the test groups were split in a low payout group, basically offering gold, and because this was the premium currency, which is the quickest we could do, in a lower amount than the test group C, which would get the high payouts. And the test time frame was 15th February to 16th March this year. So quite recent. And this on the right side now is how it would look like in the shop once you click the button, and you could basically always unlock the next tier. And then after 24 hours, it will reset and you could watch again 5 ads. So the test. For the test setup, we used a mediation from Iron Source. We decided to go with 5 ad networks, or 4 ad networks, sorry, 4 ad networks from the beginning. By now we have 5. We started off with Facebook Audience Network, AdMob, Unity Ads, and Iron Source. And the technology behind it was first 2 bidders, Facebook Audience Network and Iron Source, and then a classical waterfall behind it with multiple price instances from AdMob and Unity Ads, just in case you're interested in how we did it. So then the test started in February, and what you can see here is the engagement rate, meaning what kind of percentage of the daily active users engaged at least once with the rewarded video ads. So after the rollout, you can see there was quite some high interest, roughly 80% engaged with it. We call it the novelty effect. And then it was flattened out quite fast and stabilized around 50%. So every second daily active user is now engaging with the ads, watching at least 1 ad a day. Meaning at least 1 ad a day is because the average looks different. So we also tracked, okay, with how many ads do they engage? How often do they want to collect their free gold? And the average usage rate during the test was 4.5, which is basically, they maxed it out, most of the users, because the max was 5, as you remember. So yeah, on average, the users who engaged with ads, watched 4.5 a day. And now we come to the really interesting part, I guess, is, okay, how did the A/B test results look like? I had to black out some data, because I'm not allowed to show and share everything, unfortunately. But here you see it from 18th of March, so a few days after we ended the tests. You see we split it by Android and iOS app, and then by the 3 A/B test groups. No ads, ads with low rewards and high rewards, as explained, the default test group and the B and C test group. And then the effect on the revenue. So on top you see on the ARPU, where we combine then the ad revenue per test group with the in-app purchase revenue per test group. And on Android, there was instantly quite significant results. On the low test group, low reward test group, we had an uplift of 15% on the ARPU, while with high rewards, over 30%, which is of course dramatic change, right? Everybody, I think, is wishing to have such an uplift with a feature they implement. So this was really stunning for us. On iOS, it looked a bit different shortly after the test. The low rewards group actually was quite on par with the default group. There was basically no change, which is also surprising. But with the high rewards, there was also an uplift of roughly 17%, which is by now also significant. So this was, I think, just a few days after the test was stopped. And we not only looked at the revenue KPIs, which of course is super interesting, but also engagement. We wanted to see, okay, do people leave because of the ads? Do they engage even more with it? Do they stay longer? How are they affected? And here we split it also to the same way, Android, iOS versus low rewards, high rewards, and default. And through the bench, all groups with ads were way more active and way higher engaged with the app, as you can see on the bottom right, basically double the amount of active days within the first days, and then to no ads. This might be due to the nature that our rewarded ads were kind of implemented also as a daily login reward, right? It was resetting every 24 hours, so you can come back, and this might have fueled this. But overall, this was also really stunning for us, because we didn't thought that the impact would be so big in terms of activity and user engagement. So results summarized: iOS 16 plus 6% on ARPU, Android 32.9, and retention was stable and engagement was improved. So that was really some overall positive results. Small disclaimer: we didn't and still don't allow direct competitors to advertise in our game, just so you know. That is not because usually if you have direct advertisers or direct competitors advertising your game, your ad revenues will still be a bit higher. We have had them excluded from the beginning. And now things we still want to do and some learnings afterwards. So first we want to take this to the next level. So we will test further payouts. We will lower cooldown and play around with this. We want to segment users on different geo basis, pay versus non-pay. This is something which can potentially be very interesting, and monitor long-term effects. As you know, from March to today, it's not that a lot of quite some time has passed. So we still want to monitor if there are any long-term effects which might occur, where we need to take action. Then we are currently rolling out the rewarded ads to other live products, since the success was just overwhelming, and we don't want to waste this opportunity. And we want to utilize or start utilizing this hybrid monetization now for UA campaigns. So especially these, like I said in the beginning, these tier 2 and tier 3 countries, they might not monetize through in-app purchases so well. So we can actually, or we wanted to test if we can make campaigns in these countries positive, or having a positive return on investment through ads, maybe having a higher cap, enable them to watch ads, enable them to get also premium currency, but then are able at the end ultimately to scale these countries. That would be a big success. And we now will also play around, right? Like adding more ad networks. We added Wrangle recently, and having different entry points and mechanics, which also utilize rewarded ads. Some advices. First of all, I think what I now didn't mention was of course, the in-app purchase revenues, they went down, but that was not alarming. I mean, it was alarming in the first place, but if you add all revenues on top, there's an overall uplift, as you can see, or as you saw. So you have to take this into account. If you want just to have a high ARPU, by in-app purchases, you have to expect a drop if you add rewarded ads, at least in our case. So you have to think about a few things, or at least what we learned now. So what purpose should it fulfill? Should it fulfill the ARPU? Should it fulfill retention? Should it fulfill accessing access to unique content or to the same content, just from a different way? So this should be clear. Potential exploits, should be aware of them. For us, this device capping was an exploit, because it seems that some users have access to hundreds of devices somehow, don't ask me how, and they will watch all ads on every device. So there's potential that someone is farming your ads. So you rather want to lock it on user ID level, what we are going to do as well. You want to commit to your decision and make it an obvious thing that you have this now and don't want to hide it somewhere. And if you have an in-game economy like we have, you want to have 2 eyes or even more on them to check what is the influence on your in-game economy, because you don't want to screw it up. You don't want to exclude users. I just mentioned the slide beforehand, maybe different capping for users, pay users versus non-pay users, but we would not recommend excluding them, because they are all happy that they have the option or opportunity to get these ads. Then start with the 4 biggest ad partners, whoever they are for you, but you want to have some bidding competition to really test it properly. And you need to be aware that this is an ongoing invest you want to take. And the waterfall and the ad tech behind it needs to be constantly optimized, and it's not a thing you want to set up once. That was something we didn't have in mind in the beginning as well. Like, hey, just set it up. Once it works, leave it running. No, you have someone who's managing it basically every day and having an eye on it, because there might be some issues coming up. There might be some CPMs dropping where you basically need to add a different row or rotation of ad networks to just counter that. And yeah, basically you would waste a lot of potential if you don't do that. And definitely A/B test such crucial change on your monetization DNA of a product. We have been solely in-app purchase driven for a decade, and now we did this, and we wanted to be really, really careful. We would recommend everyone to be very closely on that and not just do it aside if you do a change in a product like this. And then I guess we're coming to an end, and I heard there's a chat where you can ask questions, and I'm happy to answer them if we still have a few moments.
Thank you very much, Marvin. Thank you for your interesting talk. Actually, I do have a question for you, if you don't mind. At the end, you've mentioned that you need to be sure what kind of purpose you should fulfill, right? Like, what's your final goal that you're going towards? And basically stick to it and get dedicated to everything that you do towards that. But what if, say, sometime later you realize that what you initially wanted is not the right thing for you and you would like to change the direction? Is there some sort of no coming back point, or how do you transfer your vision quickly?
Yeah. So I hope everyone in the gaming industry actually has a certain degree of flexibility, because we are all moving so fast and developing so fast. So no, there's definitely always a point of probably not return, but of adjustment, and you can make it work. But of course, this will then, if it's completely different from your initial idea, it might just multiply the effort you have to put in, and you must be aware if this is possible or feasible for your resources you have at hand.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you have, I don't know, some advices on how to actually make the right decision in the beginning, like, just maybe not to rush through, or have some, I don't know, some tactics or methods of how to define what you're actually looking for in the game.
Yeah, so definitely outline and define and discuss it several times, what the minimum case should be for you to call it a success. We, for example, we hired external consultant and talked to many different sister companies, luckily with Stillfront, who have ads already in their games, to just get a feeling of what it could do to our games, what would be a minimum case for us to say, okay, this is a success and we can continue with this. And this actually helped us a lot, especially also the external input. Since, of course, if you never did this in-house, you basically have to acknowledge that you have zero expertise in this. And therefore, be honest to yourself and talk to others and get their input. And then, yeah, basically, I guess you can go forward. Yeah, what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
I guess you've covered most of it.
All right.
So basically, yeah, what do you do and like how do you make sure that you're actually making the right decision? And you basically covered that. That's sometimes it's okay to ask for help for like someone else's advice, etc.
Definitely, I would always recommend that, especially I think in our industry, there are so many open-minded people who have vast experience in different topics and are always happy to share their common knowledge. And you should just be brave enough to ask them. I mean, this doesn't cost anything, while developing a few months into the wrong direction will cost quite a fortune.
Cool. Thank you very much. And if we can very briefly, question from the audience from Stefani, actually. First of all, I should like to say that you have like a great monetization strategy and wondering if you're planning to test banners and interstitials as well. Yeah.
So probably, as I think mentioned in one of the first slides, we actually decided actively against that. Banners and interstitials for now, never say never, because we want to have it user initiated. So we don't want to force our users, nor pay or non-pay users to engage with ads. So they should make the call, at least for our 3 big games, which we have at the moment, and they are the focus is on them. So as long as they are successful, I think, and still growing, there's for us currently no option to add something which would distract from the user experience. But I would recommend it to anyone who has probably a game which is not actively developed and you want to monetize it a bit harder and a bit more. You could definitely look into banners or interstitials, or even I think offer walls still an option here.
Thank you very much for your answer. Dear audience, if you have more questions for Marvin, please feel free to ask them in the chat by the stream window. I'm sure Marvin will be happy to answer them afterwards.
Definitely, or reach out via any platform where you can connect with me.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us today and have a fantastic one.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.